Apologies. And so for this session, we'll be having Stefano, who is going to take us through how exactly do you get started with building Power Apps. So just to share a few more resources, you can visit aka.ms/GOL Power Platform to get more resources regarding this series. And then if you want to access the Learn modules for you to learn along, you can also access our modules on aka.ms/GOL Power Platform Challenge. So with that, I'll hand it over to Stefano, who will introduce himself and take us through the presentation that he has prepared. And throughout the session, please feel free to share what you learn on social media using the Power Platform Clinics hashtag. Welcome, Stefano. Take it away.
Good morning and welcome everyone to this session of this initiative about Power Platform. Today, my goal is to introduce you to creating apps with the Power Platform. Before starting, very quickly, some words about me. I'm a Microsoft MVP on Azure and business applications. And I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer working mainly on Azure and Power Platform and business applications. If you want to reach me after this webcast for questions or something like that, you can reach me with the following contacts. The agenda for today, plans are to give you a very quick overview of the Power Platform components, and then we will focus our attention today on how you can start creating Canvas and model-driven apps. We will see the difference between the two types of applications that you can create with Power Apps. We will talk about connections, so data, and we will see some demos on how you can start creating applications with the Power Platform. I plan to also to spend some words also about source control management for Power Platform tools available today. And then we have, I think, a space for some questions if you have. So just to give you a quick introduction, the Power Platform, I think that you know, and you learned from the first section, that is comprised of 4 key products. One is Power Apps. Then we have Power Automate. Power Apps is mainly related to application development. Power Automate is the product mainly related to process automation. Then you have Power Virtual Agents for intelligent virtual bots or something like that. And then we have Power BI, mainly focused on data analytics and business intelligence. Power Apps provides a rapid low-code development environment for building custom apps for all your business needs. And it's a scalable data service, relies on Dataverse, and you have all the tools inside that. What you can do with Power Apps? Power Apps is what is called a low-code, no-code platform. So Power Apps means that you need to create a platform. You can create applications where you don't have to use coding skills. So mainly related to use connectors and use features that the platform provides. Power Apps work with data where it lives. So you can have tons of connectors that you can use for connected to different type of sources, and you can work with these connectors easily. And you can also create your own custom connectors. Power Apps permits you to create mainly 3 types of apps. The first is Canvas apps. Canvas apps, as the name said, are applications that are made from a canvas. So you start from a blank canvas, and then you can create your application like a painter, where you add your controls, you add your user interface as you want, you create your skills, your styles, and so on. Model-driven apps are instead another types of application that you can create. Model-driven apps are based on Microsoft Dataverse data. With model-driven apps, you cannot create interfaces that you want, but they rely on the standard user interface provided by Microsoft, what is called unified interface. We'll see model-driven apps later. And then portals. Portals are types of applications that permit you to create web portals, externally facing websites without knowing too much skills about web development. With Power Apps, you can also add AI and capabilities to your application. And with Power Apps, you can also use controls inside Power Apps. So you can enrich your applications with a set of controls that you can have. Let's focus a bit about the Canvas. Canvas apps are applications where normally can be run on phone or on tablet, and they are the type of application that are suitable for executing apps with a custom user interface. So you should select Canvas apps when you want to build an app from a canvas, where you can select the screen size, where you can select the user interface, the type of control that you have, and when you want to control all types of the aspects of the applications. With Canvas apps, you can interact with data by adding data sources. An app can have more than one data sources, and you can simply drag and drop controls in the user interface, what is called the canvas, in order to provide your application. You can create also a business logic by using Excel-like formulas. Model-driven are instead the applications that are built from Dataverse. So model-driven relies on Dataverse, while Canvas can have different data sources. You can connect it to Excel, you can connect it to Dataverse, you can connect it to Azure SQL or something like that. Model-driven instead are built only from Microsoft Dataverse, and they provide a great-looking, fully functional user interface provided by Microsoft, unified interface, the same interface that, for example, uses Dynamics 365 applications. You can define your data models, you can define relationship, forms, and views, and then you can use that in your to create an enriched set of apps. Before starting to see in practice Power Apps, I think should worth mentioning that Power Apps is not only for playing, it's not only for small applications. With Power Apps, we have a lot of big customers that are actually using with success the Power Apps, the Power Platform, and Power Apps especially. For example, Heathrow Airport has used Power Apps in the last years to empower frontline workers, and they use applications to handle lots of aspects of the airport business, and they handle with Power Apps more than 76 of workers in a day. So it's a big project. Just to say that Power Apps can also be used on very big projects. The same is for Rabobank. Another use case that, for example, I think it's worth mentioning. Rabobank is using has enriched all its processes by using Power Apps, and they with Power Apps they have cloud moved to the cloud a lot of internal business processes, and now we are used to minutes times of analyzing data, centralizing data, and then providing customer support experience and so on. So with Power Apps, they have totally modernized their business. An important aspect of Power Apps are data connectors. We'll see that later, but Power Apps relies on your data, and to use your data, you need to use data connectors in order to connect your app to the data. You have a very large set of pre-built connectors from the Power Platform that you can directly use without doing nothing. Simply fill the parameters and start using. Or you can also connect with your custom data sources. For example, if you have a custom application that you want to integrate with a Power Apps, you need to create your custom connector. And your custom connector are connector that you can create with from blank. So from blank means that you need to provide methods that your connector exposes. Or you can start creating a custom connector from Open API definition or from Postman collection, where you can have your API calls wrapped, and then you can embed the API calls into the connector, and the connector will create the schema for you, and you can start using them. As said, data sources are a lot in Power App, lots of them are pre-built, and I think that for quite all your needs, you will find a pre-built data source. And normally you have two types of data sources. One are tabular data. Tabular data means that data returned from the connector are returned in a structured format, a table. And you have function-based data, so connector that returns calls functions and then return you data. An important part of the Power Platform is Dataverse. As said before, Dataverse is considered the backbone of the Power Platform and the backbone of all Dynamics 365 applications. It's a common layer that stores metadata common on all Power Platform and Dynamics 365 applications. Database, I always said that it's not a database. It's like a database, but it's more than a database. It stores standard and custom data structures. You can create entities like a relational table, create relations, and but databases are not only tables. Database contains also metadata, common fields, properties, security, and so on, all inside the same structure. And if you check what's under the box of Dataverse, you can see that there's a lot more than the database. Data relies on a database. Under Dataverse, there's Azure SQL, there's Cosmos DB, there's the blob storage, and so on. And with Dataverse, you can have security built in. You don't have to do nothing about security. It's all built in by the platform. You have role-based security. You can fine-tune field level security and so on. You have business logic inside Dataverse. You can define triggers and plugins and so on in order to define business processes. You can perform data validation, and you can perform reporting on Dataverse. And you can also relies on Dataverse for integration. So you can integrate Dataverse with also source control, GitHub, and so on in order to create a complete source control management system. Dataverse is made up of tables. Tables are the main entities on Dataverse, and you can have a set of standard tables. Standard tables means that are tables created for every Dataverse instance, and in this common table are common to all the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 applications. For example, account and contacts, are common tables that you have inside the Dataverse environment. But you can also create your custom table. Custom table are tables created and entities created for handling specific business needs. Your customer for sure will have specific needs, so you need to create specific entities on Dataverse with a relationship and so on. Each table is composed of columns. Columns contains data, and columns has a type. The type defines the way you store the data. For example, a numerical data, a text data, or a date are different types of data that you can use when creating application on Dataverse. Another important concept before starting the demo is relating about environments. Environments in Power Platform are used to store, manage, and share all your business data. So you start from an environment, you select an environment, and from this environment, you start creating applications. And normally, in a real world environment, in a real world scenario with the Power Platform, you start from a development environment where you start creating applications. You test on that development environment. Then, when your application is considered finished, you move that to a test environment where all the users can test your app, and then you move that to the production environment. So you have different set of environments. Each environment is created under the same Microsoft Azure Active Directory tenant. So its resources are accessible only by users pertaining to that tenant. So security is built in by the platform. And importantly also to say that an environment is bound to a geographic location. So it's bound to an Azure region. And when you create a database environment, this database environment is created into your tenant and into the geographical location of that environment. So let's start. We'll see how we can create Canvas apps with the Power Platform. So let me jump to my screen. Sorry, 1 minute. Okay. You start creating application from the Power Apps portal, and the portal is make.powerapps.com. And as you can see here, you can select your environment. You can have multiple environment, and from here you can select your environment. When you have an environment selected, you have a first main screen where you can start creating apps. And here you have a different toolbar that shows you the types of entities that you can have inside this Dataverse environment. If I want to create a canvas, I can start, for example, from data. So I can, for example, I can start from blank. Blank means that it gives me a blank canvas where I can add connections to my data, and then I create my controls. Or I can, for example, start from here, where I want to create an application starting from Dataverse. When selected, the environment loads your connection. And as you can see here, you can fill your connection. If you don't have yet established a connection, you can see new connections. Otherwise, here you have listed all the connections that you have done. For example, I select my Dataverse environment from here, and I can select my entities that I want to use, for example, accounts. And this application loads the data and then gives me a connection to Dataverse where I can start a draft of an application that reads my data. And you can see then when the data are created, some seconds to load the data. The data is Power Apps starts creating for you an application that starts from a set of controls that loads your data. So here the application is start from a screen. This screen contains, as you can see, there's a review view. It has created for me 3 screens. One is for browsing the list of my data. One is for the details, the screens that happens when I click, and one is for editing. So when I want to edit a control, this screen is called. Inside each screen, if you can split this, you can see that there are a set of controls. For example, this screen, the main screen called Browse Screen, contains a gallery. A gallery is a control in Power Platform that lists a set of data. And if I select the detail screen has a detail form. Detail form is a screen that shows the details of my selected data. And the same is for the edit. So let's start by the browse screen. For example, if I select the browse screen, you can see that this application has a data source connected to the accounts table, and Power Platform shows me that the application, the gallery that I select here, source the as default source the accounts by account number, address, city, and address one. So these are the accounts are listed by account number and address. You can then start moving on this data. So I can, for example, select my gallery, and for example, I can change. If I want, for example, to change and the order and maybe filter by name, I can simply type name and saying that I want to filter by name, and the app filters the data by name. So it's quite very easy. And you can see that if I play the app, let me move the mouse, sorry. You can directly from here play the app. And when you play the app, the app list the list. You can type the filters. You can go into the details of an app. You can edit. If I click on edit, the edit screen is gold, and I can edit my account. If I can place a phone number and so on, and I can save. All these I give by the platform because I have a data connection. So this gives my from the platform gives my all this for me without doing nothing particular about this. I don't have to write code for handling this type of interactions. And let me go back to the app just to show you other things. For example, if I go to the browse gallery, you can see that here I have a layout, and I can select the layout. For example, this is a blank layout. I can select the title layout. The title layout shows me some details more. For example, gives me the name. I can, for example, select the title and subtitle or images. So I have an image. So you can select a different layout for your gallery. And the different layout reflects on your application. You can, for example, also edit each property. For example, this control. If I want to change this, I can simply fill one of the properties. Yeah, when you select a control, in the right panel, you have the properties of your control, and you can style your application, set the color, set the CSS, set the font, and so on. And for example, I don't know, let me change it, a company account. I can change the name of my control, and it reflects here. What you can do also, you can also, for example, going into the detail form. Let me go here. And as you can see, here I have only some fields, but you can click on here on edit fields, and you can add your fields. And if you click on add fields, Power Platform shows you all the fields that you have on the underlying data source. And you can simply add that in your form simply by checking it. For example, the account number, I don't know, the address one. You can click on add, and the fields are added into your screen. You can obviously you can style each of these control. So each of these control can be styled simply by selecting the correct properties and filling it as you want. So as you want that they appear on the screen. And the same, you can do that, for example, for the edit form. The edit form is the screen used for editing data. And in the edit form, the same you can add the fields that you want to be editable when the user modifies the application. Let me close this, and you can see that if I go into the browse screen, the first, I have here some navigation properties. These navigation properties are used to navigate between apps, and you can have built-in properties for navigating between screens. And you can move between screens easily. You have this set of application on each screen. So if I select this arrow, for example, you can see that a piece of code called navigate is called, and navigate is a Power Platform formula used to move from another screen. So, for example, this screen says that I want to move from to jump from
Hi,
this to the screen called screen one.
hello, hi Stefano.
Yes, say me.
So sorry for the interruption, but could you
Hi,
please zoom in a little bit? I think the viewers are struggling to see the font.
zoom.
The font.
Zooming, zooming more than this. I don't think it's
Yeah, for the
possible.
browser as well. For the browser as well.
No, it's not permitting me to zoom more than this. So I can only zooming the screen here, but not more than this. So
So not just on the app itself, but could you maybe just
yes,
zoom more for the browser, for the entire browser?
what I'm trying, but better.
Yep, I think it's much better now. Then you can zoom out for the app just
That's
a
now the
little.
problem. Now the problem. The problem now will be handling the app.
Yeah,
Let me try to do that. Okay.
okay.
Okay. So navigate is the formula that you can use to move between different screens. And you can also add, as said before, you can save the app. When you save the app, you can give it name, right, this name, and you can test your app. You can, when you save an app, the Power Platform gives you a validation of all your entire app, and if you have errors, it gives you a warning here in the app checker menu, where you can check if you have errors, and you can directly test your app by clicking here. You can preview. You can see that if your app is working. I can see that I can move between records, I can edit, and so on. So all is working. When your app is finished, you can share. Sorry, let me do that. You can share the app between users, or you can publish your app. You need to publish the app in order to make them visible to others. So remember that the app must be published in order to be usable by your user. And in your app, as said before, you can also add controls to an app. So if, for example, I leave this and just to show that you can also use more controls. Here we have seen that you can create an app taking data from a data source. We have selected database, but you can each type of data source. But you can also add controls to app. So, for example, if imagine that I have a business requirements where my data source has data like, for example, this. Let me open the screens. That data like this. This is my data source. So I have an app that contains data from different locations, and for each locations I have latitude and longitude. Sorry, but I need to stop the cam because it's bad. Okay, so I can create an app that shows in a map, for example, my where I have my locations, like this, for example. This app shows me that I have my customers are located in these locations, and I can also zoom. I can check where the customer is, and so on. So I can navigate the map, and more than this. How to do that? You can To do that, you can simply Let me go into the edit. And sorry, but the bandwidth here seems a bit slow. To do that, you can simply select a data source. Let's back power up loading data. Come on. Let's hope that the connection will work. I just want to show you how you can add controls into a power app. And for example, the map control is an example of control that you can add to a power app. How to do that? When we have zoomed the screens, the slowness is increased. I don't know why. So I can, for example, add a new screen, a blank screen in my app. From here, I can add a control. So my canvas is blank. I can add a control called map, and I say select the control. Now, from my map, Power Platform says me to select a data source, and you can select a data source from each different type of data sources. Now I have previously imported a data source from Excel. Excel is also a data source for Power Platform. So you can have an Excel on OneDrive or something like that with data. And I have previously imported my data from this data source. So I can bind the data source to my control. And now, let me enlarge this a bit. I can open my control that actually is, you can see from here that is binded to the locations fifth Excel file. Now I need to map to use, for example, this control. You need to map some properties of the control. Each control has its own properties, and to use that in a Power App, you need to map the properties. So to use the map control, for example, I need to map each property, three properties to the data source that I have. So in my data source, if you remember, this is my data source, the format of my data source. I have a column called name, a column called longitude, and a column called latitude. So I need to link the item labels properties of the control. I select this property from here, and I can fill the name that contains the property. In my case, is the name. Sorry, I don't remember. Item labels. Oh, it's okay. Name. Why it's not working? Name. Okay. Then the items longitudes. Where is item longitudes? Item latitudes, for example, with the column called latitudes. I don't know why it's not working. Sorry, let me refresh the screens because I think it's okay. I think it's not refreshed. Okay, now I think it's working. So item labels, its name, the column called name. Okay, the item latitudes properties is the column called latitudes. Perfect. And the item longitudes properties is the column called longitudes. Longitudes. Okay. What's not working here? Let me jump back to this because I don't know why it's not working now. Sorry. Do that. I think it's something related to the environment blocked. I don't know why. This environment is actually freezing. Come on. Sorry for the delay, but I don't know why this environment now is low. I think that the zooming is a problem because it stopped working when we have start adding this. So let me refresh. And we should see that the properties are mapped correctly, and now the app should work. Sorry for the delay, but I don't know why. Mysteriously now is so slow. Okay, it's loading. Okay, map one. And okay, now it's working. We have mapped the 4 properties to the item, the 4 properties of the map control to with the right the right field name. So item labels, item longitude and latitudes, and now the control shows the control on the map. So with the Power Platform, you can use also controls, and you have a rich set of controls. You can see from here that you have a rich set of control. Each control is categorized into different categories that you can use in your app for creating your custom applications. Let's jump back to here for showing you also. Okay, sorry. Okay. So these are Canvas apps. Canvas apps are applications made from Canvas, and the Canvas is a blank screen where you can start creating, select the data, select control, select the visibility, how you want to appear as control, and then you can start your fantasy in order to create and move controls. The other type of application that you can create with Power Platform is what is called model-driven app. And a model-driven app is an application driven by data. In a model-driven app, as said before, you need to model your data source in Dataverse. So you create entities on Dataverse and the relationship between entities on Dataverse. And then you can create applications. You add pages and entities on your applications. And you can create business application with the user interface provided by Microsoft. So you cannot rely here on controls, on styling, or something like that, but you need to provide the interface that is the same interface that Dynamics 365 is using. A model-driven app is made by data. Data means tables, columns, and relationship between them. It's made by the user interface that contains piece of entities like views, like forms, like the sitemap, that means the navigation of the applications. And then you can also add business logics and visualizations to your app. So something like dashboards or embed Power BI or something like that. To see a model-driven app, let's go back to the Dataverse environment. Here, let's leave this. Let me close. Let me go back to the Dataverse environment. And normally, when you create a model-driven app, you should start from what is called a solution. A solution is in Power Platform is something like a container for your applications, and a solution can contain a different set of controls and apps. So for creating a model-driven, you start from a solution, you create a solution, and then inside the solution, give it a name, and then inside the solution, you create your controls and your applications. So if I select my solution, I have creating a solution. Come on, please. I have previously creating a solution. Solution has a name. And inside this solution, I have added a different type of components. So as you can see here, for example, these are all the components. And my components contains the tables, contains an app that is a model-driven app, and something like, and add more other things. A model-driven app. What is a model-driven app? A model-driven app is an app driven by data. So when you create a model-driven app, you add pages. So let me just open my model-driven. This. You select new and select model-driven app. And when you have a model-driven app, an empty screen opens. This screen. That is slowly loading. Okay. And in the model-driven app, you can add pages. And pages are user interface on top of your data. So you can simply click on add a page, and you can select what type of page you want to add. You can select from Dataverse table, from a dashboard, or from a custom page. Dataverse table, normally common in model-driven app, permits you to select from your Dataverse environment what entity that you want to expose in the model-driven app. And here, for example, you can select one of the entities that you have inside your Dataverse environment, and you can see here that you can see all your entities that you have in this environment, and you can select an entity. I, for example, previously added the contact and the account, and you can select if you want to add it into the navigational menu. And when you have added an entity, a model-driven app adds for you a form and a view. A form, a view is the views in this case are all the views connected to the contact entity in Dataverse. And as you can see here, you have all the views that you have defined on Dataverse. And you can select, for example, the default is my active contact, so you can see all your active, but I can select all the views that shows not my only contact that I have, but all the contacts that are inside the organization, so the active contacts view. And you can edit each phase. The contact form, for example, shows you the informations about the contact. As you can see here, the interface is driven by Microsoft. Is what is called the unified interface. You inherit a set of possibilities, and you also inherit the navigational. So a contact is linked to an account, and from here you can see that I can see the accounts that pertains to the contact. If I go back, if I select an account without doing nothing, I can see its contacts. So from an account, if I go into the account an account form and I select a record, linked, you have details, and you can see the related information. So from a contact, you can see its contacts and so on. You can also add dashboards. A dashboard is a particular page. So if you select a page, you can also add a dashboard. And the dashboard is a page that contains charts. So you can create dashboards, different dashboards to use across applications. And you can add these dashboards to your applications, as I've done here. I previously created a dashboard called Marketing Department, and I added some charts. And when I run my model-driven app, what I have is that I have a business applications on top of Dataverse. So this is my business apps, as you can see. Here I have my menus, navigational menus. So in this case, my contacts, I have my accounts. When I select records, I can navigate and I can see all the information that the developer has decided to be available for me. So I can select a record, I can see related records and something like that. So if I go to related, here I can see the details of my account, and then from here I can see the related record that are all the records that in Dataverse have relationship and that I have the possibility to view from this model-driven app, so activities and contacts. And I can select also the marketing department menu where I place the dashboards. And here I can see my dashboard. So my dashboard shows me details about, for example, the activities, contacts, campaigns, and so on. You can your fantasy to create dashboards, and you can embed this into the model-driven app. And all these can be also navigated, and you can also embed the Power BI charts here. So model-driven apps are easily created by simply taking the entities from Dataverse and using them into the canvas, into a panel, and by creating business rules between them. Obviously, in the next section, you will be more in depth into each of these control. We'll see also how you can turn up the creation of this by using controls. But the goal of today's session is only to give you the basics on how you can start creating canvas and how you can start creating model-driven. Model-driven are quite important, in my opinion, because they permit you to have very powerful business application on top of Dataverse. And remember that Dataverse is the backbone of all the Dynamics 365 applications. So if you have a customer with different Dynamics 365 application with a model-driven app, you can provide you application that can run on any browsers, on any device, and then can give you inputs and permits you to handle data across applications. The last, because we are quite running out of time, the last piece of information that I want to leave you is mainly two aspects. The first aspect that I want to remember you, and I think that you will see that also in other applications, is that you can export solutions that solutions from imagine that I have finished this work and I want to put this work into production. You can export a solution and move this solution to another environment. And when exporting a solution is the recommended way to create application in Power Apps because they embed all. So when you have a solution, you can export it. Slowly today is incredible. When you have a solution, you can export the solution as managed. Managed solution means that you can modify them. You select a solution and you can export it. You can select and you can export solution. By clicking export solution, you can export it as managed or unmanaged. If you export it as managed, you can modify them later, otherwise it's not modifiable. And in the other environment, for example, your test environment or something like that, you can import a solution. And when you import a solution, it imports all the applications and the components that you have inside that solution. So a solution can contain more than one app, more than one data connection, can contain different type of application. For example, can contain a Power Platform, a Power App, a Power Automate, a Flow, or something like that. And all you move all. And this is the manual way to do that, but you can also automate this. And to automate this, you can use GitHub. And GitHub has now GitHub Actions for Power Platform that permits you to handle source control management, especially in Power Platform, but also not only source control management, also a complete application lifecycle management. So you can also install a solution in the test, and then you approve it and install it into production. Just to focus on the source control management, that I think that sometimes is important. I prefer that when different developers works in a Power Platform project, I prefer to save this Power Platform project also source control management, and they can do pull requests on this when they have finished modifications. To do that, you can simply install GitHub Action for Power Platform into your GitHub environment. When you have done that, in your GitHub environment, you can go to Actions, select New Workflow, and then you can copy the YAML template called Export and Branch Solution from the GitHub Action template. And what this is doing is simply, it's a template that you can paste. It asks you for your environment parameters. So you need to do your environment URL, database environment URL, your client ID, application registration is your Azure Active Directory, and the tenant ID. And then when configured, you have a action that you can run from GitHub that every time it's executed, it exports your Power Platform solution as managed, saved into source control. And you can, in this way, handle modifications, handle source control management, and you can also add other workflows here to deploy the solution into production. So you can handle complete source control management with the Power Platform. I think that we are quite out of time, so that's all for this intro from me. Sorry for the slowness of the environment, but I don't know why mysteriously the environment has become so slow. If you have some questions, I'm here to answer in the chat. And I encourage you to follow the other sections of this event in order to acquire more skills.
All right. Thanks, Stefano. So there's actually one question that I was hoping I can read out for you to respond to. So we have someone who's asking, is this app compatible with both Android and iOS? So I don't know if you want to just speak more about that.
Yes, absolutely. It's the app is absolutely compatible with our platform. You can execute it from browser and from mobile device natively. You can also pin in a mobile device. You can execute it into the Power Platform app, or you can also pin and execute it into the as a normal standalone app, and it's natively compatible with all devices.
Great, awesome. So I've just shared my screen, and as we get it live, so thank you all so much for joining this session. So this is session 2 out of 8, so where we'll be having several sessions to skill you on the Power Platform. So from today, you'll be able to at least build Power Apps. And the interesting part of this is that you don't have to just listen through this session, so you can also build these applications. So there's a link that will be shared on the chat. So visit aka.ms/power platform, GOL Power Platforms, and you'll be able to find some practicals that we'll share with you that you can actually build these apps. So in terms of what is next, on Thursday, we have our second session, which will be artificial intelligence in Power Platform. And from this session, I know there's someone who asked if we have any AI capabilities in Power Platform. So you'll be able to understand what can you actually do in terms of AI when you're building within the Power Platform. So definitely stay tuned. On the same link, you'll be able to RSVP for this specific session. And again, if you learn anything interesting, share your learnings with every one of us on social media using Power Platform Clinics. So with that, I will engage with more of you on our WhatsApp community. We'll also use the blog. And again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. So I think we'll close it off for today. See you on Thursday.